Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. I am Dee, and today I have the beautiful Sarah with me, another beautiful soul that I met at Spirit Fest. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited about this conversation.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
So, I feel like we have been talking for a few minutes, but I just really I want to go back to like our meeting at Spirit Fest. It's so funny that, like you said, you walked past my table a few times, and I was so sure that you were drawn to something at my table. And then when you said you were drawn to me, it was a very nice moment for me. So I just want to start there and be like, thank you for recognizing my energy and coming back a bunch of times so that we could have this meeting.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It was so cool because I was like looking at your stuff and I just kept, like you had some really cool crystals and everything. And then there was the bee. Do you remember the
Yeah.
bee? You had a bee come and visit your crystals. That was really
Yes.
cool.
Yes, I did. She stayed with me for like 3 hours. It was crazy. And she just hung out on my malachite. And I was like, okay, you're my little abundance bee today.
Yes, your little I love that abundance bee. That's so cool. But yeah, your energy. I was just so drawn to your energy. You have such a beautiful, sweet, just gentle, kind of flowy, ethereal energy. And I just love it. And so I definitely wanted to have you as a guest. And I was so excited when you said yes. So yay me.
Right? I'm yay us. This is excellent. Yay us. Thank you. Thank you for saying that about my energy. It's funny because I feel like as somebody who listens to spirit all the time, right? You get these feelings about other people, but you
Yeah.
very rarely are like, "Oh, I have such nice energy." But it's so nice to hear from others that are like, wow, your energy's real good. Because like I felt the same way about you. You had this beautiful, bright, happy energy, and I couldn't say no. I had to be on this podcast with you.
It was meant to be for sure. For
It
sure.
was, absolutely.
And I love it. You know, you and I were talking in our pre-chat about how much I've been being bossed around by spirit. And I was so amazed when I went into that Spirit Fest event. I had no
hmm
intention of talking to anyone about my podcast, none at all.
Yeah.
And I went in there with just like, I just wanted to see what it was about, what people were doing, the different
hmm
vendors that were there. And I had no intention of buying anything or talking to anyone about being
Yeah.
on my podcast. And then after I asked the first person to be on it was like I started seeing people. It was almost like there was like you can
Yeah.
like zero in on someone and you're like them.
hmm
That's who it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even sure that I was going to ask you at first because I was just feeling everything, just feeling everything. And then I
hmm
was like, man, her energy is just so like I was like a moth to a flame. It was so cool. And it just ended up being
Yeah.
this beautiful experience because I got to talk to multiple people and everyone that I
Yeah.
did ask said yes. And it was just, and I've had some really beautiful conversations so far. And I've got, I think one or two more people that are supposed to come on. So it's really
That's
exciting.
awesome.
And the cool thing is that
Yeah.
it was a local event and pretty much everyone is within an hour and a half of where I live. So we could get together in
Yeah.
person too, which is really cool. I don't get to have that every day because I
Yeah.
talk to people that are all over the world. I've talked to people in Scotland and Australia and,
hmm
England and Germany. And it's,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
It's nice when you can find a community nearby because
Yeah.
same thing. I have plenty of friends all over the world from the witchy groups on Facebook that I'm in, the spiritual groups that I'm in on Facebook. But when you can go to an event that's nearby and you can meet people that are going to look at you and go, I understand you, and not, you're a little crazy. Like it's so nice.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
Yeah, it's so funny. And it's so funny when you're in the spiritual world, you're like, you start taking that you're crazy or you're weird as you're like, thank you. Like, thank you. Like, that's the best
Yeah,
thing you can say to
you
me. I
do.
appreciate that.
You absolutely do. I would rather be crazy and weird and a little insane and be able to live the way that I'm living, be able to get the messages that I get from spirit, be able to meet the people that I meet, um, than be normal.
Yeah.
I mean, what is normal if we're
Yeah.
being honest? Like,
100%. I
so,
agree with you. So share with us what you do. I know a little bit about you. I would love for everyone to
so
know.
yeah, absolutely. So I have been I'm a tarot reader, first off. That is my main love. Tarot is like my happy place. I love reading for people. I also do a little energy work, but that's more like what I'm dipping my toe into right now. So I can't say that I'm like the best energy worker out there, but I'm definitely working towards it. Um, what else? I do a little bit of mediumship, but it's something that I really have to be in like a place for. It doesn't come as easy to me as others. Um, but yeah, tarot is where I thrive. It is like my bread and butter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a
Yeah,
lot of fun. So do
it
you
is.
do
It's
the
so much fun.
traditional type of tarot reading where you have like the traditional training, or do you do intuitive tarot reading?
So I actually do both. Um, Let me go back to when I first started. So I got my very first deck from Borders, maybe dating myself just a little. Um, and my mom bought it for me. I saw this little pocket Rider Waite Smith deck, and I was like, I want that. My mom was like, you are my weird child. Here you go. So I started there and I just did intuitive readings for my friends, like straight up, what am I feeling? This is what the card is telling you. Um, and then I actually set tarot down for a long time in my 20s. And I went through a lot of hardship, a lot of like low vibrational things. I was very depressed. And then a couple years ago, I just had this, what I kind of call my like dark night of soul moment where I was like, if I don't start again, I'm going to miss out on so much. So I picked back up my deck and I started doing intuitive readings again, but it felt wrong. And it was like, what am I missing? Something is not there. Something isn't clicking like it did before. And I actually got a mentor, and I was like, I know tarot. I know all the imagery on the decks, but I don't know the like meaning. I don't know the bricks behind tarot. Help me build this so that I can learn it. Um, and I spent 6 months with my mentor. She's absolutely wonderful, and she really like made me dig into the meaty parts of tarot, the numerology, the color meanings, the symbology, the actual meanings that were given to it when it was created. Um, and I started doing readings only using those, but it still didn't feel right.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what's missing? What am I doing? And I realized it needed to be both.
Yeah.
So I combined my knowledge, I combined my intuition, and now I honestly think that I give way better readings than I ever did in the rest of my 19 years, 18 years of reading tarot. And I mean, that's for me. I find that there's some intuitive readers that I'm like, I would never have got that. That's awesome. But yeah, I think everybody has to read tarot their own way, and that's just kind of what has come to me at this point, is that I have to do both. I have to do both.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I do tarot as well. Well, and oracle cards. I'm sure you use oracle cards
Yeah.
too.
Oh yeah.
Um, I do it intuitively right now, but I'm feeling more
Hmm.
and more drawn to get some training on, like you said,
Yeah.
the bricks of it, the foundation of it. And I came in contact with
Yeah.
someone who I'm going to ask about that because she knows all of the things. So I'm going to talk to her
For
about,
sure. Highly recommend it.
yeah,
Highly recommend because it just gives you another way of looking at the cards. It really
Yeah.
does because the cards offer so much already. And then just having that like little bit of background to it, that little, like you said, foundation is just, I don't know, it blew something up for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
I highly
amazing.
recommend it.
And so tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about how you um, get yourself out there for doing the readings. Because I know you mentioned something to me in the pre-chat, and I was like, oh my gosh, let's just start this recording so we don't miss all this good stuff. So tell us a little bit about how you're getting yourself out there and what you're doing with that.
So it started off nice and slow. I started on Facebook, just trying to get in to be a reader online. And I realized it just wasn't for me as much as I wanted it to be. Like I wanted to be able to be like, oh, I have a website and I do this and it's all online and it's great. But it just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So I started finding events around my area and just going to the small events at first, right? Because a lot of times you have to apply, you have to fit a certain like box of what they're looking for. So I would find the small ones that are like, oh, we'll take everybody.
Yeah.
And I started there and I just slowly built on it. I really did. I started at events that cost me $20 to vend, and I would get maybe one reading at a time. And it could be very, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Disheartening at
Hmm.
times because you're like, I want to get this out here. I love this so much. I have messages for people. I can tell. Like, there's times now where I can tell I should read for somebody. And I'm like, have you ever had a reading? Come here. Like, I need to tell you something. I'm not sure what yet, but come here. So that was happening a lot at these small events. And then I was like, okay, well, I got to do something bigger. I got to do something where it's going to pull people in easier. Um, so I started applying for the bigger events, and it took a lot of no's before I finally got into one. Um, and then I started doing Spirit Fest, which is very big in Florida. They have a few events in New York and Tennessee, and that's kind of where I really started to thrive and get a lot more confidence in like who I could attract and who I needed to read for. And it actually has led me to applying. I can't even say applying. So there's a Scream Park in Tavares that does a haunted attraction yearly. And I reached out to them on Instagram. I was like, hey, I want to be a tarot reader for your Scream Park. And they messaged me on Instagram and they were like, we might be interested. Email us. I was like, okay. So I emailed them. And then they emailed me back and they were like, we might be interested. We'll call you tomorrow. And I was like, okay, cool. So then they called me the next day and they were like, you know what? Yeah, we're interested. So now I have a residency on Fridays and Saturdays at Fear Reach Scream Park in Tavares, Florida for all of October.
Wow,
And I'm pretty
that's
stoked about it.
amazing. That's so cool. Congratulations. That's very exciting. And
Thank
it just, do
you.
you feel like it happened because this is just when it needed to happen, or do you feel like this is something different than that?
Uh, I do. I honestly feel like, I don't know, even within the last 2 months, I've just been kind of like put on this fast track. Like, Spirit has said to me, just do it. Like,
Yeah.
I saw the ad for the Scream Park and I was like, huh, I wonder if they need a tarot reader. And I just got, just do it, just reach out. So I messaged them on Instagram. With this podcast, I've never been on a podcast before. And I'm very much like imposter syndrome. Oh my God, why would you want to interview me? But my guides are like, just do it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm on this track that I need to be out there, that I need to be giving messages, that I need to be reaching somebody, something, some kind of level. And yeah, I feel very much like I've just been catapulted into this like new phase within the
Yeah.
last couple of months.
That's so cool. I love that so much. I really do. And I'm super
Same.
happy for you. I mean, that's so
Thank you.
amazing. Like I love spirit. I love spirit. I love the way
I
it
do
works
too.
and how creative. I always say you can't out creative spirit because these things you're like, what? And spirit's like, just go with it. Stop questioning
Just
things.
do it.
Just do
Yeah.
it. It doesn't even have to make sense to you. It'll make sense later. Don't worry about it.
Right? It's so true. You can't out creative spirit. I've been hoping like to find some place that I can read relatively regularly. And I'm not gonna lie, I would never have thought of a Scream Park. Even though it's cool, it's not something that I was like, oh yeah, they're definitely gonna need a tarot reader. It was like
Yeah.
I guess I'm doing this because I'm being told to do this right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so amazing. I love that. So interestingly, you've gotten no's from some vendor events, which is so like, is it an availability for space issue or is it something different? And if it is different, what is it?
So some places you have to go through quite an extensive like interview process, or you have to do a bunch of different classes with them for them to let you read. Um, it's really, or that there's just too many readers because there are quite a few tarot readers that are on the scene, especially down here in Florida. Um, so it's a little bit of both. It's sometimes there's just too many readers, sometimes they have requirements that I just haven't met yet. Um, yeah.
It's very interesting to me that an event would require you to take classes. Are they then they're paid classes, I'm guessing as well. Yes,
Yeah. Hmm.
that'd be a hard no
It's
for me.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's not something that I like have to do. It's for a very rather popular area in in Florida. So I don't want to like be shunned by them. So I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
no,
name
you're
names,
fine.
but
You're
yeah,
fine. It's
they require a lot
yeah,
to like get
that's
into their reader spots, their reader programs.
so interesting to me.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
I agree.
I do understand having a vetting process because
Hmm.
I personally feel like integrity is huge. And if I don't feel that from someone, we're just going to have to go our separate ways because that is super important to me. I
Yeah.
operate from a place of integrity, and that is something that I do
Yeah.
look for in the people that I interview and I associate with in my life because it's so important to me. So important to me. So I understand
Absolutely.
a vetting process. I really do. I think that that is
Yeah.
very important because the energy has to be there, the person's integrity, and
Yeah.
there has to be a real connection that is happening with that
Hmm.
person. So I do
Yeah.
understand that piece of it.
For sure. I understand vetting also. I understand having interviews. I mean, I interviewed for a bunch of Facebook groups, and things, and I've been approved as a reader in those, but it's just not what I like to read. It's not my favorite way to read.
Yeah.
Um, but so I absolutely understand the interview process, and I honestly think that it needs to happen because I do feel like there are readers out there that don't have that integrity. They don't have those morals that they need to have when they're reading for somebody. Um, so yeah, I agree. I agree, and I think it's important. It's just sometimes you can overdo it, I think, too.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree with you. It becomes, unfortunately, I think in anything that we have in society, it can become this like commercialized event where it's just
Yeah.
strictly like, I hate to use the term surface oriented, but that's the only thing that's coming to my mind right now. And
Yeah.
I like the deep, I mean, like the deeper we go with stuff, the better I like it. Like that's my favorite. Somebody
Right?
says
Me
rabbit
too.
hole, I'm
And
like, which one?
yes.
Where? Let's go. You know,
Right? Let's dig in. Let's find out everything we can find out right now at this moment.
at this
Yeah,
moment,
no,
let's go.
let's dig. Yeah, I honestly, um, I feel the same way. I have two readings that I like to offer when I'm at events. I call it my short and sweet, which is like a 3 to 5 card reading. Um, and I can do like a basic foundation. I can answer a question in that. I can do kind of a little bit of whatever needs to be done for that person. But then I have my go big or go home reading,
I
which
love
is I just keep going and I just dig. I dig. And it may sound terrible, but my favorite thing is when I can dig so deep into somebody's energy, into somebody's reading, that it makes them cry. Because
yeah,
in those moments, you know that you've connected, that
yeah,
you've helped them in some way.
yep,
So, yeah, I like digging. I like digging into energy, into questions, into finding out what's next, what's there, what needs to be said.
yeah. Because I feel like sometimes it's that moment where they just can't contain the emotion that you know you've really gotten to the
Hmm.
core of something deep. And
Yes,
and they walk away a changed person. I mean, you can't unknow
absolutely.
things
Yeah.
after you know them, you know?
Yeah. You
And
can't.
it's
You can't.
powerful.
I did the I keep on telling this story, but it was just so I don't know, it was just a moment for me that was so big. I did an event this past Friday, and it was an event that I wasn't sure I was going to do well at, but I ended up doing pretty well. But about midway through the event, I got this girl who came up to me and wanted a reading, and I was like, sure. So I do her reading, and about halfway through, she starts crying. And I know that I've hit that point where, like, I've dug pretty deep. We're going to start to back off, but we're going to give, like, a path to take. This
Yes.
is your choice. This is what you need to do. And she walked away, and I saw her go to her two friends, and you could just tell that it was a moment for her. And I was like, okay, thank you for letting me read for you.
Yeah.
And about 20 minutes later, one of her other friends came up and was like, I want a reading. And I was like, okay, cool. So I sat down with her. About halfway through her reading, she started crying. And I was like, thank you for letting me read for you. Here's your path. Here's the steps you need to take. And then she went over to the third friend and the other friend that I had already read for. And you could tell the third friend was like hesitant, skeptical, a little
Yeah.
scared. And I was like, okay, maybe she won't come over.
Yeah.
But about 15 minutes after the event ended, as my husband and I are starting to clean up our booth, she comes up and she goes, do you have time for a reading? And I was like, yes. And I sat down with her. And so I like to start all of my readings with an energy read and clearing. I use my sound bowl and I just listen to the chakras and try to figure out which ones need a little bit of help. And I had sat down and after doing that, and I had touched on something for her solar plexus chakra being very blocked.
Mm.
Like the bowl went from making some beautiful music to just quiet. And it was crazy because my bowl doesn't do that. So it was like, okay, this is so blocked that it can't even make any energy for you. And before I even pulled cards, she started just sobbing. And I was like, are you sure you want to continue with this reading? And she's like, yes, I need this. I know I need this. And I started reading for her. And she's just sobbing through the entire thing. I'm in her energy, so I'm starting to cry.
Yeah.
And it was just such a beautiful moment of like what tarot, what energy, what our spirits can do for us that it was, I just have to share that.
Oh, that's amazing. That is so amazing. And because you changed lives that day. You
Absolutely.
changed lives that
Absolutely.
day. And it's so like sometimes I know we very seldom get the opportunity to, but if we could follow up with them, like
Right?
6 months, a
Oh,
year down the road and be like, so now what are you doing? Like, what changes have you made?
hmm.
Where did that turn take you? Because they took a turn.
Right?
They didn't keep going on that path. They
Absolutely.
took a turn.
I know all three of those girls went home that night and like something changed for them. I could
Yeah.
feel it in my spirit, in my soul that something was going to change for these three. And yeah, if I could follow up with them in a year, I would love to know. Um
And you never know. Maybe you'll get
I'm
that chance. Maybe you'll be at that event again
right,
and they'll come back looking for you so that they can say,
right.
oh my gosh, you won't believe what happened. God, that would be so cool. When that happens, you
That would
gotta
be
let me know
great.
so we can come back and
I will.
talk about
We'll
it.
come back and we'll do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very lucky. I do have a few people that have come back after those moments and either want another reading or just like want to tell me that you were right. Like I took those steps and I'm much better off. So I have been very lucky with that. But I would love to know about those three. I
Yeah.
really would.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it? How some people just their the memory of just being in their energy impacts us so much
Hmm.
that we never forget them. We never forget
It's
them.
so true. Yeah.
Amazing. And
There's
they'll never
people
forget
that
you.
I've
They'll be 75, they'll be like in their little like golden girls days, and they'll be like, remember when we went to that reader at that spirit fest? you know?
Yeah, yes. Because it was all of their first readings too. So I don't think that they were prepared. And that's completely understandable. If you don't know anything about tarot, if you don't know anything about energy work, yeah, it can be mind blowing.
Yeah. Do you have people come up to you sometimes and say that they would like to have a reading, but they're afraid? Because I know I've had people say that to me before. It's
Yes.
like, what do you think is gonna what do you think is gonna be said to you?
Right? What am I gonna tell you? That's gonna be so crazy. But yes, yes, I have many a time. I would like a reading, but I'm just not sure. Well, is there anything that I can do to reassure you? I can promise you that it's not gonna bite you or anything. It's not gonna be terrible. I
Yeah,
promise. It'll be okay. And I'm just reading your energy right now. I'm not telling you that your loved ones are gonna die. It's not anything like that. It's
right.
what path do you need to be on? What steps do you need to take? Those are my favorite readings. It's like, let me
Yeah,
push you in a direction. I should say, with being pushed in a direction, we can only do so much though, can't we?
right.
Like we can give you pointers, we can give you a direction to move in, but unless you take that step, unless you do it yourself, we can't make you do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not us up to us to change anything in their life.
Mm-mm.
All we can do is supply the information. That's people say knowledge is
Yep.
power. You hear people say that all the time. And I actually just in our library here locally, there's a plaque on a little figurine that says knowledge is
Uh-huh.
power. And I actually said to the librarian when I went there, I'm like, actually, knowledge is not power. And she looked at me funny, and I was like, knowledge is potential power. If you don't put that knowledge to
Yeah.
work and implement it, then it has no power at all. It's just information.
Yeah, it's just something that I've been given. Here you go. I absolutely agree with that. It's potential power because I've given you steps you should take. I've given you a direction you should move in. Whether you move there or not, though,
Yeah,
that's up to you.
yeah, it is. But let me tell you, that reminds me of something. When I had my very first intuitive reading, he told me
Hmm.
things about myself. And then he said, and I was like, first of all, that shit's crazy. That's not going to happen. I'm never going to be doing those things. What are you talking about? And and then
Yeah.
he said to me, he goes, and I will tell you this, until you follow your path that you're meant to be on, your life is going to be very bumpy. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, let me tell you how spot on this man was with his reading all the way around. My life got really, really bumpy. I mean, really bumpy. Seriously. And then
Hmm.
I am doing exactly what he said I would be doing.
Yeah.
See?
I feel like that's what spirit does to you, though. They give you a little bit of a direction and they're like, here, move this way.
Yeah.
But if you don't move that way, they're gonna move you that way. And
Yeah.
it's not going to be great. It's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be everything that you want it to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be bumpy.
Yeah. And the thing is, like I'm super stubborn. Like, and
Me too.
it's not always a good quality to have. It is in a lot of cases, but not
No.
always. And I had to get the smackdown. That's what I call it. I had to get the smackdown.
Hmm.
My dark night of the soul lasted for years. It lasted for
Yeah.
years. It wasn't
Mine
a
really did
moment. It
too.
wasn't a night. It
Yeah.
was years that it lasted because I was
Yeah.
like, I was so resistant. I dug my heels in like a mule. I did. And
Hmm.
that was not to my benefit at all. And it took the smackdown before I was like, okay, okay, let me start
Yeah.
paying attention a little bit. And, then I had to dig myself out of this big hole that I had gotten myself into because I refused to listen. So my
Right.
my
Yeah.
heartfelt recommendation for anyone is to just listen. I mean, come on, when spirit gives you those little nudges before they turn into the hard shoves, listen.
Just
Listen.
listen. Yeah. Just do it. Just
Yeah.
move in that direction, even if it's slowly. I tell people all the time, I don't care if you take a giant leap. All I want you to do is take a little step.
Yeah.
Just take a little step in the right direction, and your life will start to get easier.
Yeah.
Because the moment that you move towards your soul calling, your spirit's path, it starts to ease up a little. They're like, "Oh, you're listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We aren't going to beat you down anymore."
Yeah. And then it's a whole new thing. Like, and I love it. Like I cherish this journey so much. However, it's not always
Same.
easy. I mean, we have days where we have these, it becomes different then. It's not about learning. I mean, it's always about
Hmm.
learning, but it's not about the foundational learning. Then it becomes about
Yeah.
learning the depth of your soul and your capabilities and all of this stuff.
Hmm.
And sometimes those integrations with that knowledge and that energy are really, really intense. It
Oh, yeah,
really is.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely still times where like you just, I mean, I can't say you, I move into like a new portion of my journey, and it takes you back down a little, like your vibration is so high, but then you hit this point where you're trying to figure something new out, and it's just like this hill on a roller coaster, and you're like suddenly back in that place where you're like, oh man, who am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to do? Because sometimes the messages change, or how you receive the message changes. And that can be terrifying
It
because
it
you've
really
learned
can be.
that, yeah, you've learned one way that spirit's going to like connect with you and teach you and guide you. And now they're trying to do it a whole different way. And you're
Yeah,
like, but what about this way? Like
right.
I was good with this way.
Right.
why
Yeah.
why are we here now?
Yeah. Yeah. I explain, like I talk to my Steve about it sometimes, and I get
Mhm.
frustrated with myself during those times because it's like I know all of this stuff. I know all of the tools. I know all of the, like it's like how I said it's like, babe, I'm like it's akin to having a tool belt on and you're going to build a house, right? And you need that hammer to
Mhm.
hammer in that nail. You just can't get that hammer out of the tool belt. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just not coming out. So what do like supposed to bang your head against the nail to get it to go in? Like,
Right? What am I supposed to
what?
do? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's just
That is,
showing you
it's,
different tools, like you said. It's a different
yeah.
way of communicating. It's a different way of looking at it. It's a different way of implementing it.
Hmm. It really is. It's just different. And like you said, what am I supposed to do? Bang my head against the wall now?
Yeah.
No, you're actually supposed to look for the stud before you put that nail in. And then if you did it that way, then you can get your hammer out.
Yeah.
It's, I find when you're like fine tuning something is when it gets like the most frustrating because you're like,
Yeah.
well, I know what I'm doing. I
Yes.
know it. But here I am, and I apparently can't finish this.
Yeah. And that's the human factor. I really feel like it is. We get
Yeah.
reminded sometimes that we are still in this human experience. And so we have to just slow down a beat. And also, I'm reading Dolores Cannon's The Convoluted Universe right now, book one. And
Okay.
all of this information is coming forward that I feel like I've been waiting for so long. And I feel like some of this stuff that happens is it doesn't seem subtle to us, right? Because we have this human
Uh-huh.
experience. So these little subtle nuances that spirit thinks are subtle, where our bodies are like, holy crap, what's happening right now? And I feel like that's really what it
Yeah.
is spirit just elevating us to another level, right? And
Yeah.
it just because we still have this human experience going on. It just
Yeah.
feels
We're
to
still
us
human.
like it's more complicated because we're still having these
Yeah.
holy shit moments that the spirit side of us feels like we're good with that now, right?
Yeah.
And but the human
Right.
side of us is like, maybe not so much.
Right. It's just a little uncomfortable. That's all.
Yeah.
I I laugh because when I first like started back on my journey, I I got all the little like head tingles that everybody talks about, right? Like when you're on the right path, I got the head tingles and I was like, "Oh, this is great. I know where I'm going. I know when I'm being told good job." Like it's almost like being patted on the head by your
Yeah.
parent as you're you're moving along. Well, then one day it just stopped. And I was like,
You're like, where's my pad?
"Well, how am I yeah, how am I supposed to know that I'm still on the right path if we're just not going to do that anymore?"
Right.
And it took me realizing that I needed to trust myself more. I needed to trust in my my own higher self, my own power, that I didn't need this head pad anymore for it to come back. Because it's
Right.
like, okay, I don't see spirit, I don't hear spirit, I just know and I get sensations
Mhm.
when I'm working. And so it was hard because the sensation that told me that I was on the right way stopped. And it took me actually being super uncomfortable and just being like, I don't know how I know this. I just know.
Right.
Okay. It's just, it's right. I'm not wrong. I just know
Yeah.
to be able to get that sensation back and to get back in like in line, I guess, where you're like, okay, I'm comfortable again.
Yeah. And as a reader, it's really important. I have found, and I'm sure I'd love to hear your perspective on this, that it, it doesn't have to make sense to us. We don't really have
Mm-mm.
to know that it's the correct thing for us to be saying because the message is not for us. And we can say
Yeah.
the craziest things like olives on Christmas morning, and that and we're like, what does that mean? And they're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, my grandpa always, you know what I mean? So we don't know, like, because it's
Yep.
not our message, a lot. I don't know if you do this or not.
It's not for us.
Yeah. But a lot of times I'll tell people, don't ask me what I said later because I'm not going to be able to tell you because it's not
Mm-mm.
my message. I'm just the conduit to
Yeah.
bring that message to you. So I don't remember what I tell
So true.
people most of the time. Do you find that to be true?
Um, I yes. Yes. I actually ask people after I'm done reading for them to take pictures of their cards because
Yeah.
I've had people reach back out to me and be like, "Hey, do you remember what cards I had?" And I'm like, "No." It was almost like I wasn't fully there for it.
Yes.
So, no. Nope, I have no idea what your cards were. I can maybe give you like snippets of the message that I got, but it won't be the full thing. So I always ask them, take a picture of this, go back to it in a couple of days, look at it again, see if anything else comes to you. Um, because yeah, I'm not gonna remember.
Yeah. That's
It's so
so
true.
funny you said that because I do that sometimes too. I'll be like, just do you want to take a picture? I usually ask them, do you want to take a picture? And I've had people ask me if they can. And I'm
Yeah,
absolutely, it's your message. Definitely take it with you,
yeah.
you know?
I don't even ask anymore. I tell them, just take a picture of this
Yeah.
because it got to the point where like it what they would come back and they'd want me to give them something else, and I'm like, I'm sorry, the energy of that moment when I was reading for you is gone. Like
Yeah.
I have nothing to give you anymore. We can try again. We can do it again, but like
Right. Well, and that's another
that's
thing
it.
too. Each reading is different. Like you could come back the next day and
Hmm.
get another reading and it's going to be completely different. There may be some elements that are the same, but
Yeah,
overall it's going to be a completely different message because your energy is different, you know?
absolutely.
Not
Like
necessarily, I
when
mean, the
people
reader's
ask
energy
me,
is different, but the client's energy is different.
yeah, the energy is different for everyone involved. I have I have people ask me, "Are you going to tell me the future?" And I'm like, "No, I'm
Right,
not going to tell you the future. I'm going to read your energy right now. I'm going to give you a direction to move in. But if tomorrow you decide that you're going to become an alcoholic, this will not apply to you because
right.
I'm reading the energy right now. Or if you decide that you're not going to follow the direction that I'm pointing you in and you're going to go the exact same or a different direction, you're going to go the exact opposite, it's going to be different because that's the choice you've made. That's the energy you've created. That's the direction you've chosen. I could read for you a year from now and it's going to be so different than what I'm reading for you right now
Yes,
because you're not the
absolutely.
same person.
Yeah. And that's the free will thing. You know, you can have readings every day for the rest of
Hmm.
your life. And if you decide not to implement that information and dig your heels in like a mule, like I did, you know, your life is going to
Right?
experience those bumps and you might wonder why, but in your soul, you know why. You know that you didn't
Yeah,
follow
you know you're
the
not on the
path.
right path.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So interesting,
It's
isn't it?
true. It's I absolutely agree. I did the same thing. I dug my feet in so deep. Like I was not on the right path whatsoever. Um, and then one day I was driving down I-4, which we all know is terrifying. And this song came on that hit me so hard and I just started sobbing. I had to pull off to the side of I-4, which is also terrifying. And I'm just sobbing because of this song that finally like hit me in that spot that was like, you were on the wrong path. Try again.
Yeah,
It's not over just because you're on the wrong path.
that's right.
You just need to try again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we can always, I mean, speaking in you know, like vinyl record speak, we can always take that needle and move it to the next song. We don't have to keep listening or changing the radio station. We don't have to keep listening to
Yeah.
that same song. We can listen to something
Mm-mm.
different. We can change our lives anytime we want to, anytime.
Absolutely.
All we have to do is make a different
Absolutely.
choice. And by the way, just
I,
to remind
oh,
everyone
yes.
that making no choice is actually still a choice.
Right? It
Yeah.
is. It is. If you aren't going to take any steps forward, you're still making a choice.
Yep.
I like when people are like, well, what if I just don't do anything? That's a choice.
That's a
You've
choice.
decided that.
Yeah.
That's still an energy that can be read.
Yes, it is. And whether we're reading it or not, the universe is still reading it. So there's always that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a good question for you. What do you do when you're reading for somebody that you can tell is super skeptical?
I just keep reading for them. I actually had a reading like that not too long ago with a gentleman who had never had a reading before. And
Mhm.
I had read this one card so many times, and I got a reading for him from that same card that was different than anyone. And it was at that moment that I said just this small little thing. He looked up at me with
Uh-huh.
this, oh my God, look on his face. And it was in that moment that his skepticism went away. I could see it, I could feel
Yeah.
it from him. So I just keep reading for them because there's going to be something that you say
Yeah.
to them or that they see. And even if they don't let you know, he did though. He didn't like say it. I mean, like
Yeah.
he did, but it wasn't like, but even if they don't say anything, you feel their energy shift when that moment
Oh
happens
yeah,
for
you
them,
do.
you know?
I agree. I agree. I do the same thing. I just read for them anyway, just like I would for anybody else. But I think it's always so funny to me that I think I've had one person that still left skeptical, but 6 months later she messaged me and was like, "You were right." I was like, I know I was." But I actually really like reading for skeptical people because
Yeah.
I find that somewhere in there it's gonna change. And that like light bulb coming on for them is, I don't know, it's a fun energy to be
Oh
in.
my
It's
gosh, it's
different.
amazing because it's
It
like the
is.
once you know it, you can't unknow it. Once you've had that experience,
Mm-hmm.
it just shifts everything because then your perspective throughout the rest of your life is just
Yeah.
different. And you see things and experience things then that you wouldn't before you had that moment. It's incredible.
It's
I,
so true.
I
It
loved it.
is. It's like my favorite.
Yeah.
I did a reading recently for, I don't know, he's probably maybe 18 years old. And his friends like, go get a reading, go get a reading, like, but you could tell they were all skeptical. They thought it would just be funny. Well, I was reading for him and I hit on a point and he looked at me and he goes, but how did you know that? And I was like, because I'm really good at my job.
Right.
Because I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Because spirit
And
always
you
knows.
can just feel that light bulb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
spirit
so
does
much
know.
fun. I love it. I love it so much. And I love that we're having this conversation about skeptics because that's not something we had even talked about before. But I
No,
know
it isn't.
that there's someone out there that is like, ah, shit, now they're talking about me because that's me. I'm the skeptic, you know? And the fact of the matter is
Yeah.
there are a lot of, and we talked about this before, there are a lot of bullshit artists, let's just be honest, out there
Oh
that
yeah, there
that
are.
are
There
gonna
are.
just be very vague in the information they give, but there are people who are super connected that you can be as skeptical as you want to be. Spirit knows, spirit always knows. And when you go to a person that's that
Hmm.
connected, the message you need is going to come through. It just is.
Absolutely.
And it's going to change your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I feel like that, like
It's
I have
gonna turn that light bulb
goosebumps.
on.
I have goosebumps on my legs right now. Yeah, that needed to be out there. So
I
I'm
have them
super
on my
excited. Do you,
yeah, I have them all down my like the back of my arm. Yeah, no, it does. Like
yeah.
I feel okay. When, like you said, there's a lot of bullshit artists out there. And when I do like the big fests and stuff, as much as I love the big fests, there's definitely some that you can just feel since you're once you're connected, like you can tell that they're just not on the same vibration, on the same level. And I will never tell somebody not to go get a reading from someone.
Right.
If you go get a reading from someone who maybe not be on that level, there's something within it for you.
Yeah.
There is still a lesson there for you.
Yes.
Um, but at those big fests, I always tell people like if they're like hesitant to get a reading with me, I I say go walk around, look at all the readers. If you come back to me, I was the one meant to give you a message.
Right.
If not, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the fest.
Right.
I will never pressure somebody and say, I'm the reader for you. You have to
Yeah.
come get a reading from me. I would rather you be drawn to me because then I
Absolutely.
know that I'm giving you the message you need.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So be as skeptical as you want. Come over anyway. We'll help
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. I feel like that's super important to find the person that resonates with you and you're drawn to someone for a
Hmm.
reason. Even if it's just to
Absolutely.
walk up to them and figure out they're not the person that needs to give you that reading. You know what I mean? There's always
Hmm.
a reason you're pulled towards that because I've had that before. I felt so drawn to this one table one time and it wasn't at Spirit Fest. It was
Hmm.
at some different event. I don't remember what it was, but I felt so drawn to this table and it was like, okay, I'm going over here. And it was like the closer I got to the table, like I started getting this feeling of like just heaviness and dread. And like I took a couple more
Hmm.
steps and I was like, I felt sick to my stomach. I'm like, okay, no, no, that is not where
Yeah.
I need to go. You know what I mean? So
No, that
sometimes
is
you're
not meant for me.
drawn.
That energy is not meant for me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just learning to
I
listen.
guess. I think that's part of the lesson, though, is learning to listen, learning to differentiate when we feel energies that we're drawn to and when we're feeling energies that we need to stay away from.
Hmm.
Once you're new on this path, it's definitely something that you have to like be able to differentiate is what are you being pulled to and what are you being pushed away from? And feeling that in your body because there's always signs in our body.
Yeah,
It's just, are you going to listen to it or are you going to ignore it?
right.
And I mean, it's a tough lesson to learn sometimes. It is a tough lesson to learn,
Yeah, it is.
but you got to learn it.
It very much is. Yeah. Oh, wow. This has been a great conversation. Is there anything else you feel like you want to add before we close out for today?
Um, you know what? Yes, there's one thing that I am in the works of doing right now. I am making a tarot course for younger readers. I've actually had quite a few younger people, so like from 12 to 18 is what I'm going to base it off of. Um, I'm going to be starting that in December, January, and it's going to be lessons, it's going to be quizzes, it's going to be worksheets, it's going to be all of these really cool things to learn the meanings behind tarot, along with learning how to use your intuition as a younger person.
Wow.
So keep an eye out on my Facebook and my Instagram. I'll be introducing that hopefully in December is the goal, but it may be January.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. So what is that going to consist of exactly?
So I'm going to be teaching them like the foundation of tarot. So I'm going to start off with like our major arcana, what each one means, our minor arcana, which what each one means, the numerology in tarot, the colors in tarot and what they mean, the symbology in tarot, all of that. I'm going to build that basis for them first so that they can start to learn that. And then I'm going to kind of show them how to start to trust their intuition and dive into their intuition. It's going to have, like I said, lessons, and then I'm also going to do live lectures with them so that they can ask me questions in real time. Um, but I feel the need to be part of the next generation of tarot readers
That's so cool.
journey. So
So is this going to be an online event or is this going to be or a
it
course?
is. It's going to
Yes.
be online and it's going to be done through, I'm blanking on the name of it. A lot of colleges use it. Why am I?
Is it Teams?
No, it's actually not Teams. It's a full-on like school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Canvas. There we go. It's going to be done on Canvas.
Okay. Interesting. And what age group would this
So,
be for?
it's going to be from like 12 to 18.
Okay.
So, um, high school really is kind of like just getting into high school, just leaving high school, um, just so that they can kind of, I feel like if I would have had this foundation as a younger person, I would have avoided a lot of different things that
Yeah.
I got wrapped up in that. So I want to give them a better foundation to start their journey on
Yeah. Yeah.
and like
That's
a
so amazing.
spiritual journey on.
Yeah, I love that so much because I've even said on previous podcasts I was raised in a super religious family, so
Hmm.
I didn't have access to this stuff back then. Even though I grew up being able to see spirit, I had no one to talk to about it
Yeah.
because it was going to make me go to
Yeah.
hell. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I often wonder what my life would
Yeah.
have
I was
looked like if I'd have had this kind of thing available to me. So I think it's super cool that you're doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I was so used to being called like the weird child. As much as my parents were wonderful. I loved my parents so much. I was spoiled rotten. Um, but I was always the weird one. I was always the black sheep. I was always a little like off.
Yeah,
So I just want to be there for this next generation and show them how they should move into this world.
yeah.
Um, give them safety, a safety net to learn in, because you can find all these different things online. You have witch talk now that's like all of this information, but some of that information isn't good. It's
Right.
not helpful. It could be harmful.
Yeah.
Um, so I just want to give them a place where they can learn, where it's got some structure to it, because
Yeah.
I need some structure, right? I
Sure.
need some rules and regulations to learn things. So I want to offer that to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. That's so awesome. And do you have a name for your course picked out?
I don't yet. I've been working on it. I have 9 lessons, but I have no name for it.
It'll come. It'll come when it's
Yeah,
supposed
it'll come
to.
when it's time.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So, well, that's awesome. I'm so excited, and you'll give me all your links. I'll put them in the description box below the videos, and people will be able to find you with a
Absolutely.
click and everything. So, I'm super excited that you
Fabulous.
came on today. Thank you so much for being my guest. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here and being able to get out there in the world for others to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So, thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of Spiritually Speaking. I appreciate every single one of you so much. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can get this information out to everyone. If you do have a 12 to 18-year-old that would be interested in taking this course that Sarah's offering, her links will be in this description box so that you can access that information when it's ready to go. So, thank you so much again. And I love you all, and I'll see you on the next one.